The world needs to stop sleeping on the Miami Dolphins, and I'll tell you exactly why. This team is coming off back-to-back 9-8 seasons, but only had a -2 point differential. Compared to last year, it was a -32. The crazy thing about last season for the Miami Dolphins were they started 8-3 and looked, relatively unstoppable at times. In fact, in those 3 losses, Tua didn't play in 2 of those games. Once he returned to the lineup, they knocked off 5 games in a row, won them all, and then suddenly things turned upside down and started to fall apart a little bit when they then lost the next 5 games in a row. With that being said, if Tua stayed completely healthy throughout the entirety of the season, I could have easily seen them winning 11, maybe even 13 games, somewhere in between there. Going into the offseason, we all knew that some minor improvements were going to be needed to be made. And that's exactly what they did. In this video, I'll be breaking down why I believe the Dolphins can absolutely shock the world next season, but more importantly, why people need to wake up and realize how good this team really can be next season. However, before we jump into the video, I need you guys to do me a huge favor and smash that like button if you haven't already done so. Not only does it help me out, but it helps out the channel so much. Get the video up to 500 likes if possible. Also, subscribe to the channel if you're new. I will be covering the Dolphins all off season long, and I will be live streaming a ton of Dolphins games as well. So if you want to watch some Dolphins games with me throughout the season, turn on post notifications. And lastly, if you play fantasy football but hate being stressed about roster management, starting and sitting and signing and waiving players, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Underdog Fantasy has changed the game, changed the way you play fantasy football. All you have to do is draft a team. It's a thing called best ball. Draft a team, and then you don't have to look at it until the end of the season. They do everything for you. So go check it out. Link in the description. Use my code, and they'll double your first deposit, and you can join in some of my leagues. But without any further ado, let's get into the video. Now, the Miami Dolphins made a number of different moves to start the offseason, including one that shook the entire NFL world. A trade that sent one of the most exciting lockdown corners in the league to the Dolphins, Jalen Ramsey. This is a game-changing move, in my opinion, and I'll tell you exactly why. Last season, the Miami Dolphins were completely terrible in terms of stopping the pass. Ranking number 29 in opposing pass play percentage, number 24 in opposing completion percentage, 28 pass yards allowed per game, and number 29 in interception percentage. Clearly, they weren't causing or forcing enough turnovers. And obviously, you don't want to be a bottom half team in terms of any stats, but, if you have a really good pass defense, or just really good defense in general, you can be a superior team even if your offense isn't that good. Defense is really, really important in the NFL, and I'll tell you one thing, the Miami Dolphins offense is already electric, so them coming out here and making this move makes them a lot better football team, not only in terms of, locking up receivers, but creating turnovers as well. And entering the offseason, that was their clear and main priority, and they did exactly what they needed to do. And today we sit here thinking about how deadly this duo of Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey is going to be. Well, on paper, it's going to be insane. Now, Jalen Ramsey did suffer an injury throughout training camp and will miss some time. We'll have to wait and see when they're going to get these two guys united onto the football field. However, the Dolphins took the word depth and took it to a whole nother level. Kader Kahu has been striving at camp and looks like he's already solidified his role as, the number 2 corner alongside Xavier Howard to at least start the season. They also drafted Cam Smith and signed Eli Apple, who looked primed to be, CB3 and CB4 with Ramsey being out. But even when Ramsey comes back, they have a ton of depth here at cornerback. I know Eli Apple might not be, someone the Dolphins love, but, he's not terrible. He does have some bad plays here and there, but he's also not terrible. Now, not only did they improve their secondary, but they also bolstered the center of their defense as well by adding David Long Jr. And PFF ranked David Long Jr. as the 26th best free agent available on the market. And that's not linebackers. That is in the entirety of free agency. The 26th best player, which is, really, really interesting and, benefits the Dolphins a ton to get him. And Jalen Ramsey is actually going to take this defense to another level. But the one thing that people sleep on the most is the talent overall that the offense has on with the players that they have. First of all, Tua, one of the most underrated QBs in the league in terms of pure talent, but also he can, bring this team to great heights and measures just with the way he carries himself and the way he's starting to build chemistry with his teammates. It's starting to seem like they're united. I don't know if you guys have seen, but in the media we're seeing a lot of things about Tua wearing a bunch of different accessories, but that's not to please himself. That is to please his teammates. His teammates, some of the young guys on the team, have been wearing a bunch of bands around their arm, just trying to look crazy at practice. And he said, you know what, let me do it as well. Let's see if we can have just a fun time, have a good time. And that is exactly what they're doing. So right off the bat, we can see a sense of chemistry starting to be built within this group. And quite frankly, even though the season didn't end as planned last year for Miami, they're building off a great year, especially from Tua in this offense. Now, when you look at the offensive numbers from last season, they were relatively really good. Number 11 in terms of points per game, 8 in terms of yards per game, number 7 in points per play, number 3 in yards per play, and they also ranked number 9 in touchdowns per game. Now, pretty much all in the top 10, and then one that was right outside the top 10. But when you look at the passing offense, they were just really, really productive. Really productive, number 4 in yards per game, number 7 in pass play percentage, which tells me one thing in particular. They need to be more efficient in their running game because maybe their offense is a little bit one-dimensional. Now, last season, Tua threw a career-high 3,500 yards, a career-high 25 touchdowns to only 8 interceptions. Keep in mind, he did miss 4 games due to an injury as well. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have been electric every time they touch the field, and Tua does a great job feeding them both. Now, the passing attack is showing no signs of slowing down, anytime soon, and honestly, they'll probably only get better from here. Now, as for the run game, they do need some work, like we said before. They're ranking number 23 in yards per rush, number 31 in rushes per game, number 27 in rush yards per game, and number 22 in rushing touchdowns per game. Obviously, all in the 20s. You need to get that better. And what they did was, drafted one of the most electrifying running backs in the draft in Devon Achane. Now, he's got pure speed and will make an impact on this team once he's fully healthy, but I do love the addition for them. They also had Jeff Wilson reach the IR, which is not a great thing for them, but they have Raheem Mostert, who is probably one of the fastest running backs in the league. Devon Achane is probably up there as well. You have Savon Ahmed, who was, tremendous throughout the preseason. But overall, I'm loving this offense. I mean, Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, we know how good they are. Braxton Berrios, Cedric Wilson Jr., kind of fighting for that wide receiver 3 job. You also have a couple of other guys as well, but I really do like where this team is headed. They did lose Mike Gesicki in the offseason, but now have Durham Smythe starting at tight end. You also bring in Tyler Kroft and Julian Hill, so maybe they have some work to do there. But if they can get this run game going, I think this is going to be one of the most elite offenses that we've seen in a long time. And then in terms of the defense, I feel like they've done a great job building around, Xavier Howard, getting Bradley Chubb a couple years ago, David Long Jr., Jerome Baker, Jalen Phillips really starting to break out. Obviously, you have Christian Wilkins as a former first-round pick, and Raekwon Davis is a former second. Obviously, Raekwon Davis needs to maybe take a step up playing that nose tackle this year. But, man, I love his game overall. And then you got, Javon Holland, Kader Kahu. They also pick up Kelvin Joseph, who they traded for just a couple of days ago in terms of getting rid of Noah Igbinoghene. So I think this team has a ton of potential, a ton of depth, and overall they are getting better each and every single day. And I think with a healthy season from Tua, I don't know if this team is going to be stoppable on offense. And then defensively, this team looks a lot better than they did last year. I'll tell you that right now. So, guys, let me know what you think about the Miami Dolphins. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Join the family. Turn on post notifications. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. Today's video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. And if you love playing fantasy sports like football, basketball, baseball, and so many other sports, but also love being able to win money, you're going to want to stick around for this whole segment. Introducing Underdog Fantasy, the ultimate platform for fantasy sports lovers. Do you want to experience the thrill of drafting your team and competing for huge prizes? Well, look no further. With Underdog Fantasy, you get access to a wide range of fantasy sports, including football, basketball, baseball, and so much more. But here's what makes Underdog Fantasy stand out from all of those other apps. They've got quick and user-friendly drafting process, a unique and exciting game formats, fair and competitive contests for all skill levels, and attractive bonuses and promotions. Not only can you draft teams and compete with others, but you can also play a game of higher and lower, which is personally my favorite thing to do on there, but you can potentially win 20 times the money you put down. And if you use code MattyDubs when you sign up, Underdog will match your first deposit up to $100. And what that means is basically when you deposit, let's say $100, they'll give you a free $100 to use and play with. Click the link in the description to get started, or head to the website right now to start dominating the fantasy world. And don't miss out on all the fun. Be a part of the Underdog community starting now. And don't forget, if you use code MattyDubs, they'll match your first deposit up to $100. Let's get started. Get into drafts with me starting today.